Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hard Count Football Podcast Live. My name is Jacob Charnow, leading the next generation of football fans live on the Hard Count Football YouTube channel and on Bucs Report. Today's show is going to be a lot of fun. Today, it is a guest. We want the fans to come on, okay? I sent out the link just now to watch it, so make sure you join the stream to talk to me, ask me questions, because it is Bucs Wild Card Weekend, everyone. I know after a long time, the Bucs are finally in the playoffs. They play Saturday night against Washington. Listen, this is extremely exciting, okay? We have no more regular season football, and that sucks because everyone loves watching regular season football, right? Every Sunday, a lot of fun. But now it's playoff time. Now is when we see these teams go on crazy runs, and this is where stories get made. And so with that being said, let's get right into it. So let's start with this, right? On Sunday Night Football, we witnessed something that I had a big problem with, as did a lot of other people. The Philadelphia Eagles played against the Washington Football Team in a game that would determine the outcome of the NFC East. If Washington won that game, they would clinch the NFC East. If the Eagles could beat Washington, that would allow the Giants to win the division after they beat the Cowboys earlier in the day. That's not what I want to talk about. Had the Eagles won the game, they would have had the 9th pick in the NFL draft next year. If they lost, they would have the 6th pick. That's not what I want to talk about either. What I want to talk about is the blatant disrespect for the game that was showcased by Doug Peterson and the Eagles. At the end of the third quarter, Doug Peterson took out Jalen Hurts and put in Nate Sudfeld, who had been on the roster for 4 years and basically never played an NFL snap. Right? It looked like he had never played an NFL game in his life. What followed was, to put it bluntly, an absolute tanking for the Philadelphia Eagles. What we watched was Nate Sudfeld come in and basically help the Eagles throw the game. Everyone on the Eagles sideline was pissed off, as they should have been. I heard 2 Eagles players had to be restrained from confronting their head coach, Doug Peterson, on the sideline. And you even saw Jalen Hurts on the sideline shaking his head, just exclaiming just how ridiculous this whole thing was. Completely ridiculous. It made no sense, right? We saw Jason Kelce, Carson Wentz, and Zach Ertz look distraught on the sidelines because of the possibility that this is their last game in Philly as teammates. As NFL players, especially this season, going out to the field not only puts the players' lives at risk, right? But now their families as well with this whole COVID thing, right? Traveling back and forth all the time and being with your family. And the amount of sacrifices that were made with these players this season. Every player on every team plays every single snap like it could be their last in order to win games. And as a coach and an organization, you should put your players in the best possible position to win. And if you don't do that, as the coach, plain and simple, you shouldn't be the coach anymore. You can argue with me that this wasn't the only team that was tanking. You could argue that, you know what? The Jets were tanking all season too. You know what? But to that, I'll say this. You can argue, the players went out there every single week on this Jets team and tried to win, but they couldn't, since the team itself just wasn't good, right? They weren't in the position to win games, but they attempted to be in the best position to win games, even with their best lineup playing. And I'm sure people are going to mention that Raiders game and what happened in that Raiders game. But guess what? What happened in that Raiders game wasn't an act of tanking. It was an act of Greg Williams, the Jets defensive coordinator at the time, being Greg Williams. He's always been that aggressive. And anybody who has watched football for any lengthy period of time would understand that this wasn't some crazy play for Greg Williams to run in this situation. It was a bad call for sure, but it wasn't something that we wouldn't expect from Greg Williams. The Eagles went out there to lose on purpose, and everybody saw it, and I have a big problem with that. Now, I want to bring up what's on a lot of people's minds who are watching this show tonight and who were excited to watch this show tonight, which is, after 2 long years, a combined record of 9-23, and a lot of depression, the New York Jets have finally fired Adam Gase. Where do I start? This man got paid $4 million to ruin a quarterback. This is the start to a new beginning in New York. And that will start with general manager Joe Douglas and that new head coaching hire that is imperative to the success of the team going forward. That's a topic that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But first, let's talk about this Buccaneers versus Washington football team game. Because I know everybody is excited that the Bucs are back in the playoffs. And you guys got lucky that you guys got to play against Washington, right? Because you locked up the 5 seed, and you guys have been absolutely rolling into the playoffs. And remember to call into the show if you have any questions or you want to talk about this game with me at 201-474-5183. Anybody call in, feel free to talk to me, ask me questions. Oh, we're getting a call right now. What's up? Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Matt from Oklahoma.
Hey, Matt, what's up?
I'm trying to turn you off here so you don't hear the backup. All right, screw it. There we go. I was just catching your show for the first time. I was kind of just wanting to call in about the Washington game that we got coming up this week.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So what's your thoughts on it? What do you think's going to happen?
I think we're going to have a pretty good day.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I heard somebody talking the other night on one of Rick's shows about how Washington's got this unbreakable defensive line and it's going to eat us up and we're going to all die in starvation and pillage and everything. And it's not going to happen like that. I think that they got a good defensive line, but their back end of their defense is something you can pick apart. So as long as we can keep Brady on his feet and do 7 to 10 yard passes all day, we're eating clock, we're eating yards. I don't think we're going to have much of a problem. But I am concerned about the one after that, which we're not supposed to be talking about yet. But I can't get it out of my head. Because if we beat Washington, we're going to have to go to Green Bay in the wintertime to Lambeau Field. And we made them look terrible in Tampa. And I'm just fearful that they're going to want to unload 70 points on us, however they can get it done. So I want to get done this weekend. I don't think we're going to have much trouble. I don't think we're going to have much trouble against the Giants either. This is kind of I don't know what you would call it, but it's a layup for us. We got lucky playing that division. And
Matt, I completely agree with you there. Because I've been on that wagon too. Everyone's been telling me how Washington, you're right, has this unbreakable defensive line and this elite defensive line, and I really just cannot get behind it because sure, this defensive line is really talented and they have some real talent up front. But guess what? This Bucs offensive line has been they've been in the upper half, one of the highest graded offensive lines in the second half of this season. And I think that, this is a team that I don't think you're going to have a lot of trouble with, right? Because even if you don't score, this Washington secondary is all banged up and they're really not that good. So I think you should be able to pass all over them. But even that, Washington's not going to score any points on offense, right? This Bucs defense is going to lock them up. And I know it's fantastic that we're getting to see Alex Smith in the playoffs this year, especially with what he's come back from. And but it's not. Washington got unlucky with who they're facing. The Bucs are rolling into the playoffs this year, and I cannot see Washington even coming close to beating them.
I can't see it either. I feel bad for Alex Smith, like you mentioned. That guy went through hell. And he's been a good story for this year, as well as the coach, Riviera, and all the stuff he's gone through. So the Washington team without a mascot is it's just one of those, that's a real cool thing to happen, especially with COVID and everything else that went on this year. That was a feel-good story, but it needs to stop.
Yeah.
So Saturday it'll stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll remember it. But I was going to say Devin White's not going to be in the game. And I've heard some people on Facebook and a couple of pages I'm on crying about that. I don't think Minter is that bad of a fill-in for him. He may not have 4.4 speed like Devin does, but he's adequate. He knows where he's supposed to be. He knows the calls. And at one point, last year, he was actually wearing the mic. So I think he's a good replacement in a pinch. And I think Devin White will be back for Green Bay, and he'll be hopefully fresh for 2 weeks, 3 weeks off. And that'll help us out.
Yeah, no, and this is something I've been talking about too for, since Sunday's game, really, where you didn't have Devin White against the Falcons, and the Falcons at points, we saw it in the third quarter of that game. They have a very explosive offense with some of the pieces on this team. When they was Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage and Matt Ryan was kind of rolling at one point, and even then, you guys were and Atlanta has a much better offense than Washington does. I don't think it's even close.
Oh yeah.
Right, for sure. And if they have, I think Washington has one piece that you have to worry about, and that's Terry McLaurin, because Antonio Gibson is a very talented back, but you guys are still the number one run defense, and they're not going to be able to do anything against you. And I'm not worried about this Washington offense in the slightest against them. And to not have Devin White, it's obviously not the best, but I don't think it'll be a problem for you guys, and it'll be better that you guys have him if you win against Green Bay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If he's going to miss a week, this is the week to miss. So
yeah, oh yeah,
and
sure.
Hopefully Mike Evans will be back. And,
oh yeah.
If it were me, I would make the coach's decision and kind of put him out there, but don't wear him out.
Yeah, and I think that it's important that you don't rule him out during the week, because at least let Washington try and game plan for him, even if he doesn't play or he's limited, and make them assume that he's going to play. So that so they have to worry about him at least.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go. So, are you ready for Urban Myers to show up in New York?
That's a topic I'm going to talk about in a little bit. I have Harry the Greek coming on in a second, and I have Deshaun Tisdale coming on in a little bit, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to bring it up with them. But Matt, call back in a little bit when I bring that up, because I'll talk to you about that too.
I will. I just wanted to say hi. I'm glad you got your new show, and it's the first time I had a chance to talk to you. So, good luck in 2021.
Thanks, man.
Talk again.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right, I'll talk soon. All right, that was Matt from Oklahoma. Matt will call back in a little bit. And now we have two very special guests coming in, and I'm looking forward to having them both on tonight. Please welcome in Harry the Greek and Deshaun Tisdale. What's going on, guys? How are you tonight?
Pretty good, brother. Jacob? How are you?
All right, so it is wild card weekend for the Buccaneers this season, and it is. I think everybody is very excited, whether or not you're a Bucs fan, because I'm not. Harry, I know you're not. Deshaun, you are, but.
Hold on. I am a Buck fan.
Oh, you are? Fan. Okay.
I've been down in Florida for, God, I've lived in Florida longer than I have when I grew up in Chicago. Okay. I've always rooted for the Bucs, but I mean, I'm also a Bears fan as well. I still have a home up there, but my residence has been down here, God, probably longer than Deshaun's been alive.
Yeah, all right, for sure.
That's a compliment. That's a compliment.
I'll take it. Don't worry. I'm taking it.
Yeah, Harry, you got both teams. You got both your teams in the playoffs this year. That's got to be
one went through the front door, and the other one went through the back door.
Yeah, exactly. But let's talk about this Washington game, because I think people are overhyping the difficulty of this game a lot, and I understand it is the playoffs, and the playoffs are a different monster. But Harry, let's start with you. What are you expecting from this game on Saturday night?
Well, Tampa is a far superior team. Everybody knows it. I've been riding the bandwagon about Washington since 6 weeks ago. I think you remember on the Rick Hughes show that I said that Washington was probably going to be the team coming out of the East, even when they were a game behind, because I see in that momentum that they had moving forward. I'm extremely impressed with their defense. Their secondary is not as bad as a lot of people think that they are, and that's primarily because of the pass rush that they have. Their front seven's really good. Their front, I don't know. I can name all the starters on their defensive line, and I can't tell you which one is better. But you know who the sneak is in this game for their linebacking core is Jonathan Bostic from University of Florida.
Yes.
That guy has been a thumper since he came into the league. He's not really good in pass protection, and they are going to expose that. But man, almighty sakes, he hit you a couple of times coming around on a couple of screen passes or little crossing routes, and that's a very dangerous area. Defensively, everybody's making a big issue and they're riding the coattails of saying that this Tampa defense is number one against the run. I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. That's a very, very skewed statistic because there's only been one team in the National Football League that actually ran against them this year. So you're asking me, well, why do I feel that way? Because nobody else comes into Tampa or they game plan for Tampa to run the football.
Right.
Only the Minnesota Vikings have really geared up to go back and run against them. Tampa is vulnerable against the run, period. They are really good against the run, but nobody game plans to run the football against the Buccaneers. The LA Rams didn't, and they're a running football team. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and they came out chucking the ball all over the place. But Tampa's really good at making you one-dimensional. Very good. On the flip side of it, the Washington football team is extremely good at making you one-dimensional when they know that Brady, who's not very mobile, and this is my only concern, is if you get pressure on him, two things need to happen. They need to keep Brady standing upright, and they have to give him time to throw that football, because if they don't, it's going to become a field goal game, and now you're playing it into the Washington's hands, especially on their home turf. And they don't have a bad running game. You know, between Gibson's and Peyton Barber, they got 15 touchdowns. They're a little over 1,100 yards. And you are correct. They only have one really good wide receiver with McLaurin. Okay.
Right.
But are they an offensive juggernaut? No, they're not going to be able to keep up offensively. And Washington's going to make some mistakes, especially with that young defense. But don't discount them. And there's a lot of points, man. They're still a 9-point favorite on the road. And last but not least, if you're betting on this game, don't be too enthralled on laying 9 or 10 points, even though they may win the game by 20, because Tampa's only covered twice this year on the road as a big favorite. And that's all I got to say about it. Do I think the Bucs win? Yes. I am going to get that right out there.
Deshaun, what about you? What do you think?
I mean, I think this game is, a couple of things that, Harry's been pointed out pretty much every time that I've seen him, that anybody's had a conversation with him about blocking. So when we talk about the strength of this Washington team, it's got to be that defensive front with 4 first-rounders up there. But what I would love to see Tampa do is to come out and protect their weaknesses. They definitely have to have a back that's going to stay in and chip properly, not a half ace, chip, but they need to seriously, if they're going to chip and go out for a pass, they need to seriously chip, and then they need to haul tail and get out there and be available for Brady to get the ball to him. The next part that I really want to see Tampa do is put some protection over there. Have Gronk over, have another tight end over there. We need something over there to help Donovan Smith, but you got to help him in more ways than one. Tampa has to come out and be in playoff football mode. The last 2 times you've seen Tampa offensively, they have been in playoff football mode. And what does that mean? That means they have to run the ball. If you do what Harry said, and what everyone knows that watches this game, if you allow the defense to tee off to know that you're going to pass, and you're just going to come out and try to dink and dunk, or you're going to come out and try to quick screen them, that is in Washington's favor. What we have to do as Tampa right now is we have to come out, we got to spread the ball around, spread the wealth, which we've been doing that, but we have to run the ball, and we have to run it in different ways. There's going to be a couple of difficult runs. We can break this game open and have it in our favor, and here's how we can do it. A couple of those quick drives that we saw last week, those will benefit us on the defensive side by making their offense one-dimensional, but there's something like Harry's clearly seen it, and you've probably seen it as well, Jacob. The way that this Washington team runs, they are very Carolina-esque. This is why a Peyton Barber, who we didn't have as a mainstay back, and we just let him go, he's been able to go up here and have success. They're pounding the ball. They line up very Carolina-esque, 13 personnel. They had their extra tight ends out there, and they're just going to pound and pound and pound you. And here's what I think about the defense for Tampa. When you run directly at us, even before we were known to be a top-rated run defense, whenever you have run directly at Tampa, we are at the compromise. You don't have linebackers that are built to take people on head on. We have slashing linebackers. So the difference in this game is I think they'll run at Levante David more than they'll run at Minter. Minter is fit to play old-style football. Just line up and just Smash.
Minter's a thumper, bro.
That's what he is.
You're absolutely correct. He lacks in the passing skills for pass defense, but man, he lays the wood.
He's gonna lay the wood, and here's the thing. Look at the body structure. Like Jacob, if you're just watching his body structure, I mean, Devin White is his own beast, but he's not here, so let's not talk about him.
Right.
But when we talk about Lavonte David versus Minter, and then you look at even Bostic for the Redskins, this guy, listen, you're gonna beat Bostic in pass coverage, no problem. But guess what? If it's Rojo coming through the hole, if anybody, Keyshawn Vaughn, and I'm waiting to see the collision between Leonard Fournette and Bostic, because it's going to be a good NFL playoff, collision, and that's what we want to see. But we're going to get to see it because that team's going to be physical up front. There's enough D linemen there to leave gaps for linebackers to fill. I really only feel like they have Bostic, though, a linebacker. So I feel like against Tampa, when we get in 12 personnel situations or we spread them out, they are compromised. They cannot, what Tampa is that we morph to what you can't do, which is what we should do offensively. And as long as BA and Leftwich take advantage of that, Jacob, I think we're going to see a game that's going to be just wide open as long as Tampa's clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I think, you're right. We're looking at it. Devin White, you will be missing Devin White, but I don't think that it is as big of obviously Devin White's a great, great player and he should have been a Pro Bowler. That's a whole different story, but I really don't think that having Minter is going to be that much of a fall off, especially in that run game, in the run defense instead of Devin White. And I think where Minter lacks in pass coverage, Lavonte David will make up for that. And I think that that's kind of a good duo that you could have there at linebacker.
You guys tell me this. Do you really think I saw the tight end make the touchdown catch in this game, but how many touchdown passes does Alex Smith have to the tight end this season? How many touchdown passes does he have? Because this is the only way. Here's what I'm looking at Tampa, which we haven't spoke about just yet. Our safeties play extremely well. And when you allow our safeties to play up to the line of scrimmage, we are terror. That is where we start to look like Bucs defenses of yesteryear, where we would have safeties, really close to the line and kind of getting involved in the run game early. When you see Winfield able to come down in that box, he's a problem. That's all the run support that you need. And to me, that's the way that Washington runs the ball. They kind of line up in that 13 personnel. They push the edge, and they just try to beat you to the outside, get some quick bursts over there. Well, the way that Winfield comes downhill, Edwards comes downhill, that's going to be a problem. Now, and the only way to get them out of that is you have to be able to beat us deep. And who do you think that our DBs can't cover? And if Carlton Davis is back, Harry, what's the line if Carlton Davis is back? If he plays in this game, then does that change anything or no?
That's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that, to be honest with you, because I'm not sure that Carlton Davis is going to play because, you got Rojo back. And I really want you to think about this. Carlton Davis, I believe, was dealing with a groin, correct?
Groin. Mm-hmm. Groin.
Okay. Well, they found it important enough to get their starters into the game. And you got a guy with a broken hand who has surgery, who's wearing a club that they ran the ball 12 different times in multiple plays, but they didn't get Carlton Davis any reps. I think they may rest him this week, and I don't really think they're going to need them because I'm going to tell you right now, if Tampa plays their safeties down in the box and they force them to pass the ball, it's playing right into Tampa's hands because truthfully, they are a running football team in Washington.
That's it.
Yeah.
And if you get them to pass the ball quite often, they're going to get some yardage, but they're not going to really go deep on the Tampa defense because that's just not the style of team that they are. They run a lot of misdirection, but they also play smash mouth football. They run it right at you, and they don't care.
In a cloud of dust.
Yeah, they don't care if they get 1, 2, 3, and then they're out. As long as they're pounding that rock, eventually they feel that it's going to set them up somewhere in the game. Okay, I'm going to catch him sleeping. Here comes that safety. He's getting up where the middle linebacker is, and he sees single coverage out there. That's when Tampa has to be careful. And if they stop those 3 or 4 plays that Washington's going to try to put on them, Tampa walks away with this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's shift into this. Mike Evans, who I think everybody is happy that Mike Evans injury looked a lot worse than it actually was, because I think everyone was kind of expecting the worst from that. And here's what I'll say for this is this Saturday, I think Mike Evans should be listed as active only because I think that you should want Washington to try and game plan against him and expect like he's going to play, whether or not he actually is. And is this is something I want to get your opinion on? If Mike Evans were to be limited or not play at all, how much of a loss is that actually for Tampa? Because I'm watching that Atlanta game, and Mike Evans is obviously a great player, and he's probably a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL right now with the way he's been playing recently. How much of a loss is Mike Evans when you have all those, like Bruce Arians said about Antonio Brown, those insurance policies with AB, Chris Godwin, even Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller, and then you have that, and you have Gronk, you have Cam Brate, you have so many weapons on this offense. Is the loss of Mike Evans really that dire for the Buccaneers?
Nope.
I don't think so. What do you think, Harry?
I don't. I mean, I don't think he should play at all. I mean, hyperextension. When the injury happened and I got a close up of it, I didn't think it was an ACL. I was worried more about his MCL, to be honest with you, and the other ligaments, especially with the way the leg bent. And having played ball before and having knee issues, I couldn't watch it more than once because I was literally cringing because it hurts. And when you have a hyperextension and you get a sprain, sometimes that actually hurts worse than actually having a ligament tear. So
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be 100%. He's not going to be able to cut in and out of his routes, in my opinion. Okay, he may very well play this whole week, play 80% of the snaps, catch 200 yards, but I wouldn't put him out there. Do they lose something without him out there? Yes, you're losing Mike Evans, but you're gaining Antonio Brown. Okay. I mean,
you unlock AB at his full potential.
What else do you want me to tell you? You're putting this man up on a platform who hasn't really played much football in 2 years, who I'm the first one to admit, and I was very critical about the Buccaneers signing him just because of his character issues. And I thought he was going to be nothing but a glorified Devin Hester coming to Tampa. He was going to be a return specialist and an occasional wide receiver. I'm the moron. Because that man has gone off on some games. For instance, that Atlanta game. Now, this isn't Washington's defense. I don't care what defense it is. You can't cover AB. I don't care who you are. He's one of the most. He's one of the most elusive wide receivers I personally have ever witnessed. Now, does Mike Evans catch more 50-50 balls? Yeah. But I don't see AB dropping many passes if they're right around him. I mean, that man's got hand. I swear he's got the old stickum on his hands every time he throw the ball.
He's got a lot of it too.
So the answer to that question, I don't think you see a drop off at all. I really don't.
Yeah,
Well,
Sean.
Hey, Jacob, let me ask you this. When I look, I could see Tampa not needing to play Carlton Davis or Mike Evans in this game.
And still win by 20. Yeah.
And be just fine. I think we have, it's an embarrassment of riches here in Tampa.
And to be honest with you, we just haven't been using them. And to me, I would say
if you look at them, you have to think that, hey, we're going to do just enough with our tight ends that we're not even talking about going to Gronk at this point. We're not talking about what we're going to be able to bring in the run game. This is not a, I mean, we're talking about a Washington defense at the front is great. This is still a front that's great, that was having all kind of problems. The Eagles are begging to give the game away to them, and they could barely win that game. This is a team that has gotten hot in the middle of the season, and I believe it's starting to fizzle. This was not a team that was hot early. They got hot in the middle. They're better towards the rest of the end of the games that they're having right now. But I think that this is a Tampa team that they really don't have the number of weapons to match up well. So with that being said, I'm looking at them thinking, if Mike doesn't play, but the way that BA has used Mike before, Harry, he puts him out there, he lets him run a couple of routes at you heard him say it. His 80%, his 50% is better than some guys' 100%. And we've watched him not be 100%, still make the catches where you're like, this dude is clearly hurt. He's laboring. like, look, Rick said it. He's whining after every play. Well, guess what? We know that he's hurt. They're playing him hurt. So if he whines after every play and he's hurt, I guess he has the right to get pacified at that point, right?
Yeah, no, and I mean, how do people forget, right? If that Antonio Brown stuff with his character and all that never happened, Antonio Brown, he was probably he's a top probably 3 receiver of the last 2 decades, right? Of the last 20 years. When he was in Pittsburgh, oh my God. Like,
he'd still be there, Jacob. He'd still be in Pittsburgh, period. You know that, I know that.
Tearing it up too.
Yep.
It's a pain. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run a quick ad. It's literally 10 seconds long. And then we'll go through some of these comments. I'll get you guys back in here, and then we'll move around the NFL a little bit. Sound good?
Absolutely.
All right, no problem.
All right, for sure. All right, welcome back to the Hard Count Football Podcast Live. That was a very long break, but Deshaun, you said you got to hop out of here for a few. Go ahead, tell everybody where they can find you, because I know you got a show on here now. Did we lose Deshaun?
I like the picture.
Yeah, that's a good picture. All right, well, I'm sure he'll be back probably in a little bit, but let's get him. We'll remove him for now. Harry, what's going on? How are you?
0, little brother, 0.
Oh, all right, he's back. Oh, no, he left. Okay. All right, well, go check out Deshaun everywhere. I'm sure he'll be back in a little bit. He said he got to jump out for a few. But, Harry, let's get through some of these comments for a second, right? Okay.
Sure, go ahead. Take your time.
All righty. I got to scroll up. All right. Tim Witherspoon says, congrats on the Gase firing. Thank you. We're certainly going to get to that. It says, let's go. Let's go, Bucks. Fabian, let's go. Doug Peterson should be banned. All right, we're definitely going to talk about this. Eagles should lose draft picks, and Bucks are going to crush Washington. Happy to see Rondé Barber and John Lynch making the finalist lists. Sure. We just might have Mike Evans back. We just had a whole conversation about that. Alex Smith, comeback player of the year, which unfortunately is not going to help him this weekend against the Bucks. Absolutely. I mean, I think they should at least just like name the award after him at this point, because that's what he came back from, man. But it's not going to help him win a playoff game against this Bucks team on Saturday. Jackson says, hey, what's going on, Jackson? Michael says Brady is 0-2 against the NFC East in postseason. Okay, I'm not gonna rely on that stat, but sure, go ahead.
That was then. That was really then, and this is now.
Right. Bucks will dominate. I agree. I think overall the Bucks have a better defense and obviously a better offense. That being said, it's going to be a tough game, and we'll earn victory and moving forward. Listen, a win in a playoff game is a win in a playoff game, and I don't think. And there's that's all you got to say about that. Sam says AB has gotten better and better each game. Absolutely agree. Diane says, Diane says, hey, what's up, Diane? Bucks times James says Shaq and JPP both have more sacks than Mr. Chase Young. Is on the coaches to neutralize that defensive line with Rojo. I completely agree. I think that you need to just pound the rock against Washington. Even if they have that defensive line that can stop the run, you still got to run the ball. You can't be fazed by it. You have to let Rojo work, because I still think that he'll get yards against this Washington defensive line. Absolutely. But anyway, Harry, let's move around the NFL a little bit, all right? Because let's talk about it. And I know this has been something, and I know I am the only person I think on this entire platform of Bucks Report that cares this much about the New York Jets, as I am a Jets fan. But
that's my second favorite. That's my second favorite team. I'm sorry. It's my favorite AFC team, and it always has been the green team, bro.
Let's go. Haven't they won you a lot of money this season?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, 2 games that I projected. One, I had them on the money line with the points and the money line against the Rams. Okay. Okay, just to let you know. Don't even want to talk about the money that I won in that game.
We'll go full screen for you for that.
No. You don't want full pictures of this.
But yeah, I've learned the hard way. Don't bet on the Jets. That's kind of been my thing. I cannot do it. It's hard for me. It's really hard for me because they're so disappointing anyway. But I can't be disappointed anymore by them. But anyway, like I said, after a combined record of 9-23 over the last 2 seasons, Adam Gase got paid $4 million to coach his team into the ground, and he finally got fired. Listen, immediate thoughts. Where do the Jets go from here, starting next week? Who is your favorite head coaching candidate for this New York Jets team?
It's not a real popular one. You haven't really heard much about him. But I'll tell you right now, I really like the head coach for the Northwestern Wildcats.
Pat Fitzgerald.
And I'm going to tell you why. He's both. He's primarily a defensive style coach. And, the Jets are very similar that they are the Bears. When you think of two things with the Jets and the Bears, what are they? Defense is number one, and you're being able to run the football.
Yeah.
And he fits the bill on both of those because he really concentrates on defense, but he's not too proud. He's going to say, you know what? I don't want to be the person to call the plays. He'll bring people to that organization that specializes in offenses. But trust me, he will find a coach that really believes in running the ball to set up the pass.
Yeah, no, he's one of my favorite guys too, and I think that
Really?
if there's a guy, I've been talking about him all offseason. There's a few names that I really like. So here are some of the guys so far that the Jets have requested to interview. Right, Matt Eberflus, the Colts defensive coordinator, Pat Fitzgerald, Matt Campbell. So a lot of these college ones, you don't really hear that they're interviewing them. Right, it just kind of happens under the table. I think these are guys that they're going to interview for sure. Since, you would know better than anybody. If Matt Nagy got fired, I think that Bears job was Pat Fitzgerald's for the taking already.
It was him or Harbaugh.
Right. And so Jim Harbaugh's next on my list. And I am a lot of people disagree with me. I would love the hire of Jim Harbaugh for this team because this team, we've been saying it for a while, they need a CEO type of coach. A guy that's going to take this team and just run with it. And he's going to make it his own. And I think that Jim Harbaugh, a lot of people have forgotten what he did in the NFL just because that he's a bad recruiter at Michigan because he doesn't know how to recruit guys from high school, right, to come to his Michigan team and do that. He's a great NFL coach, and I think if there's a guy who you would want to turn around an NFL organization, Jim Harbaugh's one of those guys. And then on the flip side, Eric Bieniemy is another one. And I have my own issues with, I have my concerns with Eric Bieniemy because
I do too.
how has he gotten so many interviews and not landed a single job? That's I don't know.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Either do I.
I'll just say one thing. He's not the coach for the Jets. Period.
Yeah. No,
he's
you're
just
right.
not. He doesn't fit that bill that Pat Fitzgerald or even a Jim Harbaugh has.
Yeah.
Play defense, run the football, then play quarterback. There is one knock on Harbaugh, and I will say this because I've known people that have played in the NFL and then following his career and following him when he came from Michigan, when he got drafted by the Bears in the first round. I believe it was in 1989. Yes, Jacob, that was a very long time ago. But anyway, he came up under the tutelage of Mike Ditka and then being around Mike Singletary a lot. And what they had in common is they were very hard-nosed, very, very disciplinary type of coaches. And I don't know how that's going to translate in today's game because you don't have many of those coaches. I'm sorry, not the Giants, but the Jets had one not too long ago in Rex Ryan.
Yep.
Okay. And that's Buddy Ryan's son. That's all under that same cloud from the Ditka and the Buddy Ryans and everybody else. And with some of today's players, I don't think they like those kind of coaches. And that's what I think one of the knocks are going to be with Harbaugh. Yes, I'm a believer in Harbaugh. I just don't know if that team's equipped with it. But when they have been as bad record-wise as they have, I think they may respond to them. And a lot of people don't realize that Jets team has a lot more talent.
I've been saying it all offseason. I've been saying it all season.
Than people realize. They're not that far away from only winning 2 ball games to winning 10 next year. I'm not kidding you. That's how talented that team is. They just need a little bit more structure. And I'm so glad I would have paid him $6 million to get out of town.
Yeah. And I think that, and then the Harbaugh thing, I think that's mainly the only reason why he hasn't signed that extension with Michigan that we're hearing about is because he does have that NFL interest still. And he wants to go back to coaching in the NFL because that's where obviously his success lies. Another name, Matt Campbell out of Iowa State. I think he's a guy that, he loves football. I mean, we see him constantly so emotional, either in the sidelines or the locker room or whatever. He's a guy that I really like, and I think he could pair well with a young general manager like Joe Douglas. That's where I worry about Jim Harbaugh is not the age gap, but just the experience gap between Harbaugh and Joe Douglas and whether or not they're going to work well with one another. And obviously, Wink Martindale is another name that we're hearing a lot about, the Ravens defensive coordinator. He kind of has that spunk too that you want to see. He has a lot of personality. I don't know. This is something I think the Jets, there's a lot of teams that kind of already, I think, have their head coach, right? I think, I honestly think Bieniemy's going to end up in Houston. I think Brian Dable is going to end up with the Chargers. I think that this is all right. We'll talk about this because I think Urban Meyer is going to end up in Jacksonville, and
I can see that. I can see Urban Meyer going there. And I'm telling you, I really wish the Jets would get either the head coach from Northwestern or even the Iowa guy that you're referring to, because that fits the bill. Very same type of coaches as a Harbaugh. Defense, run the football, and that's it. But you're right. They need to get someone in there with maybe a little bit more experience. But then again, you surround your people with people that already have experience. You're just the leader of the team.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. And I think there's a few guys about this Jets talent, man. There is some guys on this team that, going through, right? You have Denzel Mims, who looks like he has talent to become a really, really good wide receiver. Jamison Crowder. And then just on this defense, man, I think they're going to lock up Marcus May. It seems like that's a priority. Joe Douglas said it was a priority for them this offseason.
They better lock him up. The guy's a stud.
He's great. And listen, Quinnen Williams he should have been a Pro Bowler. I don't understand how he wasn't, because I think he got hurt a few games. Mekhi Becton is going to be our franchise left tackle for the next, hopefully, 10 years. And then George Fant on the right tackle, who is a lot of people were criticizing that signing last offseason, and it worked out really well. And I think we need some interior offensive linemen and a quarterback, which is, I know a lot of people. Harry, you're making a face. I think you disagree with me.
I'm sorry. I think I think he needs one more year. You get him on the cheap, you franchise tag him, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't think Adam Gase did him any favors. I mean, he was probably one of the most talented quarterbacks coming out of that class, and I think he just needs a little bit more talent, and I just think he needs a different energizer. That's all. That's just my personal opinion. I say the Jets trade that pick and they pick up a whole bunch, because I'm telling you, he's not a bad quarterback, Jacob. I mean, I've broken down a lot of games. Believe me, he's made Trubisky mistakes. Let me go right out there and say that.
Yeah.
Okay. But when defenses know what's happening, it's a lot easier to play defense against them, because they didn't scheme very well whatsoever. And this coaching staff definitely was not a fit for this quarterback.
Is it crazy to say that the Jets would be fine either way, whichever way they went at quarterback? Because I love Sam Darnold, and he's been it's so hard. It would be so hard for me to watch them move on from him, but you got to keep your options open. If someone comes up with an offer that is like the Jamal Adams offer, you just can't refuse it. It's unrefusable.
They're not going to give him that for Sam Darnold.
It would be for that number 2 pick.
Right. It may not even be. It'll be for the number. You know what? I don't even think they'll even. I think they might get even a third rounder. If they got a second and a pair of third rounders, or a second this year and a second next year, then he goes. Otherwise, I think you just trade down and you get. Oh, you were talking about just the number 2 pick.
I was talking pick in general.
I'm so sorry. No, that number 2 pick for the quarterbacks that are available is worth 2 first rounders and a second.
Mm-hmm. I think that the only team that might trade up is a team that needs Penei Sewell, and that would be the Cincinnati Bengals at 5, because they need to lock that kid up for Joe Burrow. There's teams that are going to trade. I think Miami trades down. I think there's a chance Miami trades down as well.
Oh, I don't believe that. You know why? Because if you look at Miami's draft, the past 3 years, they have really fleeced quite a few different teams, bro.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, they are so stacked right now with draft picks.
It's so scary.
The New York Jets will be what the Miami Dolphins were 2 years ago when they started piling these draft picks.
It's literally the same situation. It's like the first step is firing Adam Gase for both teams. That's the way you clear it up. I don't know. I still am a fan of. I think it's easier to develop for a new coach to come in and develop a quarterback than it is to fix a quarterback. But because I mean, you obviously watch a lot of film. I see problems with Sam Darnold that go beyond Gase and go beyond his weapons a lot. It seems like that not having an offensive line for the first 3 years of his career he kind of has some happy feet now in the pocket. You see that a little bit. He doesn't really look past his first option. He looks like he's eyeing down one receiver all the time. And those are things that can be fixed with a new coach, I think. But I think if a new guy's coming in here with this new culture, I think that they're going to want to develop a guy in the draft. But I also think there's going to be teams that with that Clemson game fell in love with Justin Fields and will give the Jets a good offer to maybe trade up and get him as well. Maybe a team like the Lions, for sure. Maybe the Lions or the Panthers.
Yeah, I can see that happening. But as far as Donald's is concerned, I'm going to go back and give you another example. I hate to go back to the Chicago Bears. They remind me of two very similar quarterbacks between him and Trubisky. So how did they fix Trubisky? I don't know. Trubisky came into the league throwing 8 and 10 passes a game because he was under John Fox in year 1. But a year 2, when he got into that new system, they were moving him all over the place, and the kid went to the Pro Bowl. And then all of a sudden, year 3, we're going to make him a pocket passer. How did that work out for him? And that's when he started going downhill. So when they benched him this year, because of the fact, now mind you, he had 6 touchdown passes and 2 picks. And they pulled him out of the Atlanta game and said, okay, you threw a bad pass. We're putting Nick Foles in. And that's it. Bad boy. And now you're going to learn your lesson. We're going to run you out of town. But all of a sudden now, 5-6 games ago, he's been on a streak because they brought him in. And they said, you know what? We're going to do what we know is best for you. Matt Nagy's not calling the plays. We're going to roll him out because now he doesn't have to fixate only on his first receiver, because every time he threw the ball, he was throwing it to Allen Robinson. Every single time. And they have a plethora of wide receivers on that team. They're very talented on the offense. But now they're moving him a lot more, and he sees the field as he's running. And that's what I think the problem with what happened with Adam Gase with Sam Darnold. They were not moving him out of the pocket. And they were forcing him to do something that he's not comfortable doing.
Sam Darnold's been better on the move than he is in the pocket since his rookie year.
That's what I was saying.
Exactly. And you're right. Me and you were both on that from the beginning with when they benched Mitch Trubisky, when the Bears benched Trubisky for Foles. We were both like, what? Why? What are you doing? Like, they were like, what were they, 3-1 at the time? Like, it was
5.
Oh, they were 5-1.
5-1.
That made
said,
it made zero sense. It made zero sense to me at all.
4-1. 4-1. You were right. 4-1.
It was because because Foles came in and ended up winning that game.
Yes.
Right. And then that was just the beginning of the end. And then once Trubisky came back in, it was the start of something good. So we'll see. But I think you guys should have fired Nagy. That would have been a surprise to everyone.
They're not going to. They're going to sign him for 1 more year.
I know. It's
blown away. But you know what? I will say one thing positive about him. Just because I had a problem with him with the way he was handling the team and and what was happening and how he was making his play calls, it doesn't mean he was a bad play caller. I mean, I respect Peyton Manning. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, Peyton Manning ordained him as the best play caller in the National Football League.
Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning got Adam Gase's job, so it's hard for me to still be as much as I did. But I respect Peyton Manning.
But I do respect one thing: that man's job was on the line. Mm-hmm. And 5 weeks ago, he went, you know what? I think I need to take a back seat. Let me be the leader of the team. Here, Mr. Doug Marrone, I want you to go ahead and call the plays. And since he did that, then the Bears team is starting to go ahead and move forward. There's so many good games this weekend. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to
every game. Every game is very exciting now. And we'll move into the playoffs in a little bit, but so this is something I wanted. I think it's hilarious. So the Jaguars are in a position right now where they are loaded on cap space, loaded in draft picks, and they have the opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence. They can basically have any GM and any head coach that they want at this point with the way this team is set up for the future. Very exciting future there. And their owner, Shad Khan, decides to come out and say that he is keeping roster control of this team and not giving it to the GM. For everyone who is saying that Jacksonville is a better place to go than the Jets right now.
Wrong.
It's just the ownership there is ridiculous. It's this anti-Jets media bias that I can't get over, where as soon as the Jets don't have the number 1 pick anymore, oh, Trevor definitely wants to be in Jacksonville because they've done great things for quarterbacks in the last couple of years. In history, they've done great things for quarterbacks.
What?
Exactly.
Like what?
Exactly. Name one. Go ahead.
Byron Leftwich, he stunk him over there. Mark Brunell, when he was quarterback before you were born, I don't expect you to remember him. You probably know the name. He was average at best, and he's the best they have ever had. Ever.
I feel bad for Trevor. because that's where's the stories of should Trevor force his way to New York? Where are those stories? They're non-existent. They are not happening. They are not happening.
They're not happening.
Yeah,
You're absolutely correct on that one. I mean, I don't know. And I have my own reservations about Trevor Lawrence, as I've alluded to you from before.
Yes.
I think he's a very good quarterback, but he's not the second coming of Christ coming into the league. That's just my opinion.
I worry about it. So here's what I said last year about Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow has the ability to be a fantastic quarterback in the NFL, what I worry about is that he's in Cincinnati. And who is going to, if they didn't, I said this way before the season, like before they even drafted him, that if they don't get him any help, then it's not going to matter. He's not going, there's very few quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and a few others that they're just escaping my mind, that can make up for the lack of talent around them. They can win football games on their own. Right.
He was trying, though. Joe Burrow really was trying to carry that team. He was in every single game when they were huge underdogs.
Right.
And they had one guy in the backfield, Joe Mixon. I just think about that. No offensive line. Was AJ Green even playing?
I really don't even know. I really don't even know.
Half the games. So he essentially was thrown to nobody. They had a running game, and he was literally running for his life, playing smart football and doing everything that he possibly could. I was praying to God I was going to watch him develop, because I do like Joe Burrow. I like his decision making, and I think he was going to be a really good quarterback. But you're right. I had some reservations about him being in Cincinnati as well, just for those simple facts and reason that you actually said.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with Trevor. If they don't get him any offensive line help, if they don't get him any weapons, he's not going to succeed. It's plain and simple. He won't. That team isn't talented enough to succeed just based on a quarterback. They're not. But anyway, now Tua Tagovailoa. This. I have heard.
Say that name twice, 3 times in a row fast for me.
Yeah, honestly.
I can't do it. I just call him Tua.
But Tua, that game on Sunday, man, I feel bad. He just looked, his confidence was gone by the second quarter in that game. It was upsetting to watch for this team. I've heard so many people overreacting about Tua and saying that the Dolphins should draft a quarterback next year. They should get a guy, run with Fitzpatrick. Tua is not good. He's a bust. Tua's in his first year. Tua played 1 year and not even a full season. And I was saying it before. I didn't even think Tua should have played this season. I thought they should have sat him the entire year and had Fitzpatrick go run with it. And I thought they would have, but I guess they wanted to see what they did with him. It was an audition. They just got to get him. Who was he throwing to?
Nobody.
Devontae Parker didn't even play most games, and he isn't even that good anymore, right? And that's it. Lynn Bowden, is that who you want to throw to? Right? It's just, there's no guys on that team. I think the Dolphins will probably get one of these top wide receivers in the building at some point this offseason, or they're going to draft one, either Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith. I still think it's probably, I don't know. Devontae Smith doesn't feel like a fit there. I think I still like Jamar Chase for that Dolphins team, even though he didn't play this year. And I think Devontae Smith falls to the Eagles at 6. But the Dolphins are in such a good position that you can't just be cycling through quarterbacks. You have to see what you have with Tua for the next, at least next year. Just see, because you see problems with his arm strength, but it's all development. You can't just throw him in there and expect him to succeed right away. It's unrealistic. Harry, what do you think?
You know what? I think the Dolphins you make some really, really good points on there, Jacob, because I was getting ready to say something about that. They have a lot of draft picks this year. And the way that defense, that, by the way, is one of the best no-name defenses that I have seen in years.
They're making a name for themselves.
If they draft anybody on defense, it ain't going to be to the 5th round or later. Because I'm telling you, every one of their picks are going to be offensive-minded. And the first thing I would do is get him more protection up on that line. 2nd round is when I'd start shopping for a wide receiver, because there's a plethora of wide receivers and running backs. And there's so many quarterbacks that are going to be coming out of the 1st round. You don't need to waste 1st round talent on a wide receiver when you can get speed. You can get a big possession receiver in the 2nd round, or you can get yourself a speed surge to go ahead and peel the top off the defense.
There's a chance that they go, if the Jets let's say the Jets draft Justin Fields, right? And they look all around. No one really gives them the offer. They want to take Fields at 2. That would leave the Dolphins to be able to take Penei Sewell at 3. And that would and then they could take Rashad Bateman at 18.
Oh my God.
This team I am so scared as a Jets fan for this Dolphins team and this Bills team for the next decade. Honestly, it is frightening.
Well, the Bills ain't going anywhere for quite a while.
Definitely.
This Bills team is. I remember 5-6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I ordained this Buffalo Bill team, the team that can and probably will beat the Chiefs this year in the AFC Championship. And I'm really sticking by my guns here.
The Chiefs are very vulnerable. They feel very vulnerable right now, do they not? And
they're gonna have
one
loss.
They're gonna have 2 weeks. They have 2 weeks off. They have Patrick Mahomes isn't gonna play for 2 weeks. Tyreek Hill 2 weeks. I don't know. That's why.
But they're going to be rested though, right? They're going to be
rested or rusty. We'll see.
Well, through the microphone, rested.
Yeah.
Get it? Rested. Get it.
There you go. Oh wow, we are approaching 8 o'clock, which means I gotta wrap this thing up. Harry, it's always fun. Thank you for joining me. I'm sure I'll probably talk to you soon, whether or not that's later on Rick's show or next week on my show. I'll see you sometime this week.
Thank you for having me on. I'll probably see you next Tuesday. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in this weekend because I'm telling you, man, there's some great games. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of Chicago fans out there because the Bears are going to New Orleans. I just wish we had time to talk about that game because I could give you 12 reasons right now why they could beat New Orleans.
Yes, absolutely. So can I. And I've said this multiple times. I think that the Bucs, if they were to play tomorrow, I think the Bucs beat the Saints. But that's a different story. All right, I'm gonna get you out of here.
Take care of yourself. Thanks for having me on, Jacob.
Of course, man. Talk soon.
Great show.
Thank you. All right, Harry. Once again, he's a genius, man. He's always a lot of fun to talk to. But with that, we're going to wrap today from the Hard Count Football Podcast Live. My name is Jacob Charno, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. Special thanks to Harry and Deshaun for coming on to the show tonight. Be sure to go follow me on Twitter at Jacob Charno and on Instagram at Hard Count Football, and now on TikTok at Hard Count Football as well. And as always, remember to check out the Hard Count Football Podcast Live every single week on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Hard Count Football YouTube channel and right here on Bucs Report. Make sure to go check out other videos from Hard Count